Hey, welcome everybody. So again, I'm Dwight with Max Moving Training, and today we're going to be going over managing your marketing. This is going to be essential. I know that we're getting close to the busy season, but managing your marketing is just crucial to, just understanding what's working and what's not working. So my goal is not to necessarily go over which lead providers are the best, which aren't really working. For the most part, most lead providers are staples in the industry. So, we have, Equate Media, we have moving.com, movers.com, Yelp, Google Ads, SEO, paper, postcards, so we have an abundance of lead providers and sources that we can go to, and each of them work for us in different ways depending on the market that we're in. So again, knowing that they're working and not just kind of like bad mouthing them, saying that, hey, we got a lot of leads from this provider and we didn't book anything, they're not working, is, how are you tracking them? How are you marketing them? Are you just thinking about quantity versus, the output? So that's kind of how we'll go into it today. So let's start. Let me share my screen. Dun, 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 dun. So, okay, so you should all be able to see my screen. All right, perfect. Okay. So this is your typical marketing ROI report that you may have, whether you have a CRM or you're doing it on paper or whatever the case may be. This is typically what a marketing ROI report would look like. In most cases, this is on a monthly standpoint, but you can ultimately create a spreadsheet where you can monitor it on a monthly basis. So in this case here, we're going to use 3 lead providers to demonstrate so that we don't get too crazy with all the numbers. So we have Google Listing, we have Quote Runner, and we're going to use Home Advisors as examples or so like that for this example. So you're going to still have your general metrics over here, where you're going to say, well, hey, what's the booking percentage? What's the average move? What's the acquisition cost? What's the amount spent on marketing leads? Percentage spent on marketing leads, and then your bad lead report as bad lead count. So typically, ideally, you want to be around 7%, 7 to 10% of your marketing budget. So not to exceed 10%, but if you're less than 7%, that means you have room to buy into more marketing. Some people like to be around 3%, 4%, or whatever the case is, but you're not really saturating your marketing. You're not really hitting on, market share, so ideally you can still make, say 2 million, 4 million, or whatever the case may be, and still be around 7% and only spend, let's just do the math, let's say $2 million company or so. You're looking at about $140,000 that you would have spent if you're a $2 million company on your marketing or so like that to get $2 million. That's not bad at all. So if you're only at, say, 3%, you're only spending $60,000 to get there. And that's not bad either, but you still have a lot more leeway to put into your marketing to get more, because ultimately the marketing is supposed to give you a certain ROI to give you a certain revenue projection. So if there's still sources that you're not, utilizing, this is the opportunity to be utilizing that because you have the leeway in your budget. So let's say, okay, we have, oops, hold on. All right. So let's look at these lead sources here. So we have Google and we have Quote Runner and Home Advisors. So let's see how they're performing. So Google gave us 249 leads. And out of the 249 leads, we booked 61 moves. So some people may say, oh, wow, that's very low, whatever the case is. But from this, let's say you made $78,835. So at a price point of $6.25 a lead, your marketing spend is only percentage is only 197. 1.97%, so almost 2%. And your marketing spend was only $1556.25. So for $1556.25, you made $78,000. Okay, you may not have booked that much, but your ROI was amazing. Your booking percentage was 24.5%. So yes, people may consider that to be very low. Oh, I want to be at 60%. I want to be at this. We got to realize that it is a numbers game. We won't book every customer, and nor is every customer our customer. So understand that your booking percentage could be low for some of these providers, but the return of 78,000 is what you're looking at. How much you're spending on that marketing source is what you're looking at, versus looking at your booking percentage and thinking pride. Oh, I need to be at 60 to 70% booking percentage, or I ain't doing my job. Don't look at it for pride, look at it for the results. So then now we have Quote Runner, who received 57 leads and only booked 2 jobs for $1734.50. Now their leads was $8.25 a lead. So with them, their booking percentage, that marketing spend is 27%. Now that's way too high. So again, at this point in time, you can really test this lead and say, well, hey, I tested this lead for 3 months, which is the typical timeline is going to be 90 days that you should test any marketing source to see if they're optimal. And if they're not cutting it at the 90-day marker, or maybe they're just a little above the threshold of the 7 to 10%. Because again, with lead providers, you might be on the higher end, you might exceed 7 to 10% of your marketing spend. So you could probably say, hey, set the benchmark at 20% instead of 7 to 10%, because you know you're going to get an influx of a lot of bad leads with lead providers, but it's a numbers game. So again, with the 27%, you can look at that and say, well, hey, you know what? That's very high. Maybe depending on the situation, I might give them another quarter. But if they're not cutting it in the next 6 months, they absolutely have to go. But this is kind of like looking at that report on a 90 to 180-day standpoint to say, hey, you know what? Am I keeping these guys? Now we have, let's say, Home Advisors, who is 103 leads for 6 bookings for $7,315, $18 a lead, average lead cost. The booking percentage is, again, very low, 5.83%. So you only would have spent $1,854. How much did you make off of this one? $7,315. That may not be good, but it just depends on what time of season you are in. And right now they're at 25.3. So if it's slow season, okay, maybe wait, give them until June or so to see if they pick up. But if they don't drop below that 20% realm that we were just mentioning, then hey, they may have to be cut too. And we don't always want to cut all these lead providers, but we want to make sure that we set the goal and the benchmark for what we will accept and what we will not accept. So another thing I've been hearing is that, people get a lot of leads from a lead provider and they kind of cut them off right away. Like, oh, I got, let's say 90 leads from this one lead provider and we didn't book anything or whatever the case is. Oh, we're cutting them, and it's only been like a month or so like that. So an example we'll use I Relocate. And we'll say that, let's say that they gave us some leads. So let's say 15, 30, and 45, just to stay in the 15-minute increment, 15 increments. And now, hold on, I didn't update. Let's see. 15, come on, 30, and 45. It should be updated. Okay, here we go. So we got 90. So then now we're going to say that we have, let's see, how many jobs? We're going to say we have five booked jobs, and we made about $10,000. So out of the 90 leads we got, we made $10,000 just by booking 5 jobs. And people may say, oh, that's so horrible, blah, 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 blah. You know, and yes, the lead count is extraordinarily high, but for $7 a lead, you made $10,000 ultimately. Your booking percentage was only 5.6%. Your average move was $2,000. You spent only $630 to book $10,000. And with a 6.3% marketing spend. So you're still underneath your 7 to 10 window. And we knew that lead providers should probably be a lot higher in marketing spend, because basically it's a numbers game. But in this case, because you were able to make more per move, it actually worked out in its favor, where basically I Relocate looked like gold right now on paper. Like, hey, maybe I could get them a little bit more money, because basically I'm not at that 7% yet, and see if I could generate a little bit more money so that basically I could still stay around that 7 to 6%. So that's how that works. So don't be quick to give up on the leads too quickly. And then another way of tracking it, if this was a little too much or whatever the case is, you could break it down in a marketing ROI report similar to this, where you could basically track your same leads that you had in your other report, but change the formatting and see it on a quarterly basis on how they're doing quarterly. Okay, well, hey, I got 249 leads from Google. I booked 61 leads. I made $78,835. My average lead cost, well, my lead cost was $77.41. And that's like if you're paying for pay-per-click or SEO or whatever the case is. And that's why, you know, your lead might be a little higher. But again, you can adjust that based on what your projected leads are, how many bad leads you got. And then it breaks it down. Hey, you had 25% or 24% booking percentage. Your average move cost was $12.89. Your acquisition cost was $4.14. Amount spent on marketing was $6,425 on average. And then let's see. Percentage spent was 26.2%. So again, you're looking at that number. But Google is probably going to be a high percentage. It's not going to be low. Angie's leads, again, looking at it from a 3-month standpoint, you know, and Angie's leads end up being around, where are we, 36.7%. So again, they're very, very high. So you're like, well, hey, at the end of the first quarter, we had 103. We only booked 6. We only made $7,300, and they're at 36.7%. This is an eye opener to knowing, okay, well, these guys might have to get cut. You know, and it's, hey, it's just business. But you have to realize that, hey, I know when to cut them because I'm measuring it. And what doesn't get tracked doesn't get measured. And then what do we have? So we didn't calculate quote runner. But yeah, so again, you can just look at it on that way, kind of go from there. And then one of the last points, let me just stop sharing. So I have my notes here as well. And pretty much there's just certain things that you're going to want to ask your marketing source, lead providers, before you even take the lead provider on. And things that you're going to want to ask is, hey, what was your volume in the last 30 to 90 days? So they may say, well, that's an interesting question. Let me do some research and figure out, get that answer back to you. And hey, that's fine. Take your time, because basically what you're doing is with these lead providers or anyone, you're tying up your money with them, your cash flow that you could be using other places. So you want to basically have them tell you, hey, okay, well, hey, in the last 30 to 90 days, we spent, oh no, we had 200 leads in your market. Oh, okay, no, that's not bad. 30 to 90 days, 200 leads. Okay, I know that I'm not going to close on all of them. So if I at least close on 30 of them out of 200, that's not bad, because obviously you can make a lot of money out of those 30, and and hopefully you'll know what their lead price is. So, again, you want to make sure that they have volume in your area. If they say, oh, well, hey, in the last 30 days, we had about 5 leads in your area. Okay, no. I appreciate your time today, but, ultimately, I know that I'm competing with three other movers or more on those 5 leads. So I may not even get that, ultimately get that lead or booking. So I want to play the numbers game. Give me 200 leads, and if I book 30 out of them, I'm okay, because obviously I know that our average move cost will be high enough to cover the rest of those leads. Another question will be, what kind of filters do you offer? So whether it's zip codes, area codes, counties, or by the state, because basically you got to realize what your territory is. You can't service every area and be effective, ultimately, unless you have multiple locations. But the thing is, if a company says, okay, well, hey, we could do the whole zip code. Okay, zip code is fine. Zip code is relatively pretty close. Area code is tough. Area code is because somebody said, well, hey, we could do the whole 718 if you're in the city of New York City, or you could do the whole 518. That area code can reach so far. Like we're talking about over multiple cities, that basically it becomes a point where they're nowhere near your shop. So now you have to charge the customer a ridiculous travel fee to get to them. And that's ultimately not going to be good. So you're going to lose out on a lot of those customers because of how far those customers are, because that filter was based on the area code. So again, and then counties, if you service certain counties, that's perfect. That could work for you. And then by the state, there's some lead providers that may say your local leads are your whole entire state. So for a company like myself who is in New York, if you tell me that, hey, the whole New York state is local, no, like I'm only in one region of New York State. So, obviously I cannot service the whole state of New York and say that it's considered local, because my travel fees are going to be ridiculous just to go to New York City to move somebody somewhere else. Plus, in New York, obviously in New York State, you have territories that you can't service, without certain restrictions. So again, knowing your filters can ultimately save you a lot of money. And these are questions that you want to ask. So again, recap, you want to ask about what type of volume you have from the last 30 to 90 days. And you want to ask what type of filters they have. The next thing is you want to know is, lastly, what is the cost per lead? So this will help determine what type of budget you can set aside. And if they're like a company like, no shade, a company like Home Advisors or so like that, who have high lead prices, Home Advisors is good. But the thing is, if they have high lead prices, you got to think, okay, how much money do I need to put in to this? And how quickly will that money burn out? So if you set your marketing budget for the year at 7% or whatever your income is, as you just seen with a $2 million company at 7%, you're at about $140,000 that you can allocate across all of your marketing sources. So that $140,000 you want to be wise about and actually just use it on, properly allocating across all your marketing sources so that all of them can bring you ultimately that 2 million or more. So if you're giving a bulk of that money to, say, Angie leads, because their leads is, say, like $30 a lead, versus Quote Runner, whose leads is $7 a lead, it just, and Quote Runner is giving you better results than Home Advisors, as an example. You just got to be smart about it, because basically your marketing spend is going to be a whole lot higher. Your marketing spend percentage is going to be a whole lot higher if you're not converting those $30 leads. So again, understanding your lead cost, understanding your filters, and understanding how long, understanding historical data will basically be how to properly determine if you want to take on a marketing source, and then tracking it on the report that I just showed you is going to be another way to make sure that they're doing their job the way they're supposed to be doing their job. And that was the marketing managing factor. I hope that made sense. Again, I'm Dwight with Max Movement Training. And if you have any questions, definitely leave them in the comments. I'll address them as soon as I can. And I hope you enjoyed this segment of managing your marketing. And you have a great day. All right, take care.